The information presented on this tape is not medical advice and is not given as medical advice, nor is it intended to propose or offer to propose a cure for any disease or condition. Before starting any medical treatment, please consult your physician.
This is Tips on Juicing with the Juiceman, Jay Kordich. For the past 40 years, Jay has traveled across America, teaching and lecturing, presenting people with information that can improve the quality of their lives. His message is simple. Jay says, you have a choice, sickness or health. Keeping the internal cells healthy is the key to disease-free living. Use your juicer daily to maintain good and long-lasting health. This is side one. Now, here's Jay.
Hello, I'm Jay Kordich, better known as the Juiceman. I've put in 40 years of working in the trenches to people, and I want to give you all my experiences and let you know all about these juices and these raw foods and how to build a healthy, sound body so you don't degenerate prematurely. We're only on this earth for such a short time, and if you follow, I believe, what we're teaching, I think you will have the ultimate source of food value reaching every single one of your 60 trillion cells. And you'll find that the basis, the nucleus to being healthy is the partaking in freshly made juices that you make with your own juice machine in your own kitchen. It's my total belief, and there isn't any other way to be healthy into your 70s, 80s, 90s, and even beyond, and disease-free. Now, a lot of people, when they begin to jump on the bandwagon of juices, they have to be a little bit patient. It takes time. It takes time to resurrect and flush and cleanse and detoxify. In fact, some people, when they first begin to make these juices, what happens, and consume them, what happens is they have various amount of reactions. Some people get quite nauseous, almost like a seasick feeling. Other people have gastritis from it. Other people have diarrhea from it. And these are the reactions that happen as they're starting to cleanse and detoxify, you see. And you know, one thing I notice, all my people that do a lot of carrot juice, it really does automatically give them a real basis to a tan without really getting a lot of sunburn unless they're extremely fair skinned and just beginning. One of the things about the beta-carotene, it protects you from this melanoma or the skin cancers. I'm a former cancer patient, so I bone up a lot on these juices, you see. Now, a lot of people also say, well, gee, if these juices are so important, why not buy them? I can buy them pre-made. Now, just remember this. Everything in a can or a bottle that you buy from a supermarket or even a health store that's canned or bottled is sterile. Everything in a can or a bottle sold retail to the public must be put through a sterilizer, or if you will, a pasteurizing machine, you see. And the temperature of these machines is set to play safe, to kill the enzymes, at 175 degrees Fahrenheit. And the time allotment is a minimal time of 20 minutes, but most machine conveyor belts are set for a half an hour. Now, the reason they do that is to kill the enzymes, to give these canned and bottled goods shelf life. A lot of people will eat these foods all their lives and think they're going to be healthy. That's an impossibility, because you would have to eat today, in the way they deplete the soil, approximately 15 pounds edibly of fruits and vegetables daily. And from that total amount, you'll get enough of the nutrients to nurture the cells so you have cellular integrity and you won't atrophy or age prematurely. Now, no one can eat that much bulk. You see, you cannot consume that much bulk. So what you must do is eat a little bit of fiber. Now, I'm not saying to you to eliminate all fiber. That's impossible. Fiber is an absolute essential. Don't misconstrue what we're saying here. Fiber is used, but only physiologically. Fiber helps you exercise the gums. It helps you salivate. It stimulates the peristaltic action, and it helps cleanse the colon out. It's not so much the fiber that's important. It's the juice that is locked in that fiber that has to be released. And my slogan for over 40 years now has been, it's the juice of the fiber that feeds you. The fiber is only used physiologically. The fiber is desperately needed, and it helps clean out the colon from excess bacteria. But not a speck of fiber, not a fiber that's thinner than the finest hair on your head, can permeate through the intestinal wall and get into the bloodstream to feed you. It's the juice that was locked in that fiber that, through osmosis, penetrates through the intestinal wall into the liver to reach the bloodstream. They tell us our 4 basic food groups. The first is animal products like fish, beef, pork, chicken, turkey, etc. The second group is dairy products, milk, cheese. We include eggs in that group. Now, if you just took those first 2 food groups, there wouldn't be any one of us alive at the age of 25, were it not for the other 2 food groups that offset the 2 dead food groups. The third food group are fruits and vegetables. The fourth food group are nuts, seeds, and grains. Now, if you eliminated the first 2 food groups and just concentrated on the second 2 food groups, you'd have people living disease-free in their 70s, 80s, 90s, and into their hundreds. The key to me is keeping live food in the body. Now, what are live foods? Well, live foods can be pinpointed as foods that have enzymes. Now, what are enzymes? They're little fatty protein chemical molecules. And what they do in actuality is speed up or slow down or neutralize every reaction upon reaction of the human body. Now, enzymes are very delicate, and only heat destroys them. Freezing does not destroy them. And they're so delicate that they begin to be destroyed at 102 degrees Fahrenheit. They are totally destroyed by the time they reach 126 degrees Fahrenheit. And what happens when you have dead food in your body, which is enzymeless food, or, if you will, cooked food? Now you put a burden on perhaps the second most important organ of the body, and that is the pancreas. The body now has to produce enzymes that were originally in the raw food. Now, there are no enzymes to stimulate the digestive processes and initiate it. So the organ, the pancreas, has to come into action and into the foray to produce enzymes, burdening it with yet another job. The pancreas is supposed to produce insulin and produce pancreatic enzymes to keep trophoblast or cancer cells at bay. After years of eating cooked food, the pancreas swells up to 3.5 to 4 times its normal size and atrophies, and finally ends up not being capable of doing the job it is supposed to do, having it burdened with this other job, and it's pulling other organs into the body, particularly the thymus gland, which is one of your glands that produces T cells to fight so many viruses and conditions of diseases in the body. So the pancreas begins to atrophy, you begin to age, everything starts to, like the domino system, fade away and break down, and you have a degenerative disease. What really does us in prematurely and ages us very, very quickly is one thing: cooked food. Anything cooked is dead, and you cannot revitalize the human body with something that's dead. Dead food, dead bodies. Live food, live bodies or cells or tissues. Now, I'm a raw foodist. But eating raw live food is not enough. Now, I want to tell you the difference between eating and juicing. When you eat the raw food, you should chew every mouthful of food a minimum, as Dr. Fletcher said, a minimum of 50 times. Now, most of us won't do that. It's boring. It's time-consuming. What we like you to do is chew every mouthful of vegetation at least 20 times. every mouthful before it's swallowed. And the reason for chewing is not to break the particles down into minute pieces. The reason for chewing is to mix your saliva properly with the food that you're eating, with the vegetation, which is cellulose fiber. Basically, it's lignum, it's woody substances. The reason we want you to chew is to mix that salivary amylase, which is called ptyalin, P-T-Y-L-I-N, and that's manufactured in your salivary glands alongside your jaw, and under your tongue. And that's the reason for chewing so many times every mouthful, is to thoroughly mix that saliva, that ptyalin, which is an amylase, so that the body then, with that mixture, can break the carbohydrates down to starches and sugars. You see, that's the key to good digestion with vegetation. The reason for juicing is to separate the juice from the fiber, so that when you do drink pulp-free juice, you derive 100% of the food value, and it's in your bloodstream in a matter of minutes, and the body did not exert 1 iota of energy. In other words, everything is pre-digested. When you eat the food, then the body has to process it. And all the body is doing, chewed adequately enough, at least 20 to 30 bites every mouthful of vegetation. Now the body has to, with peristaltic action, break everything down. And believe it or not, when your body is digesting food, your body is nothing more or less than a juice extractor. The whole premise behind digestion is to separate the juice from the fiber. And I'll bet you that no one's ever mentioned that to you before. Now, when all of that chime, it's a bolus. It's all the juice and the enzymes and the hydrochloric acid and the gray-green pussy bile, splitting the fatty atoms and the intestinal juices. When it all reaches the third part of the small intestine, where you have your villi, it is only the juice that permeates through the villi, through the portal vein into your liver, to reach your bloodstream. The fiber moves a little further down to the ileocecal canal valve, to the ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon, and out the rectum in a bowel movement. See, it's the juice of the fiber that feeds you. When you first begin on the juice program, you beginners especially, what I want you to do is chew your juice, especially the first mouthful and perhaps even the second mouthful. And by chewing your juice, I mean to put a mouthful of juice and swig it around, swish it around for 20 to 30 seconds. And what that will do, that will stimulate the taste buds and the salivary glands to produce and start to secrete the enzyme ptyalin that will very readily begin the breakdown of the carbohydrates into simple sugars and starches. So I think that's imperative, the first mouthful and maybe even the second mouthful. Chew your juice. The composition of the human body is in the ground, in the form of minerals and vitamins, especially minerals. And if you and I reached down in a very mineral-rich soil and consumed it, those are inorganic entities. Plant life, with their roots embedded in that ground, or the tree trunk that's going to bear the fruit, take those inorganic compounds and bring them right into the life force, the energy level of the plant. Locked in the cell, for instance, of a carrot, there is all the essentials that the human body is structured out of. And if you can envision a carrot, each carrot has over 1 million cells. And every one of those cells is like a little teeny minute bag of water, liquid. And that's what the body tries to extract when you consume that whole carrot edibly. That's why a juicer goes into those cells, ruptures them, and releases the fresh juices, so that when you drink them, they're in your bloodstream immediately. Of course, we know the most essential mineral is calcium. And basically, that's for our bones and teeth. And believe it or not, 1.2% of the calcium of the body is in the nerves and the nerve endings. Now, a lot of you ladies out there are quite frightened from some of the information that is leaked out. And you're frightened of one particular word, osteoporosis. And people are thinking about the humped back, the stooped over, you can't straighten out. And the dairy industry is telling us all to drink a lot of milk. Now, let's do a little thinking. Did you know that 1 glass of carrot juice has 2.5 times more calcium than milk? And spinach has 4 times more than carrot, making it 10 times more calcium than milk? I'm going to give you a little question to ponder. Where does the cow get its calcium? You're right, from grass. All these greens are inundated with usable calcium, and the only way for us to get enough of this calcium is to release the calcium with a juicer. And a great recipe for that is the Swiss chard with carrot, the parsley with the carrot. And any time during the course of our educational tapes, anytime you're doing any leafy greens, always remember you should have no more, no matter what the size of the glass is, no more than 1/4 of that glass to be green juice and the other 3/4 to be carrot. Now, I don't categorize celery as a green, so you could actually put 1/4 of the glass of juice, like say spinach, add a little celery and the rest of it carrot. Another thing that has a great amount of calcium are mint leaves, and one of my favorite recipes is spearmint leaves with apple juice. In other words, a handful of spearmint and add 2 or 3 apples, and you've got a magnificent tasting, not only thirst quencher, but chock full of calcium. And sprouts, bean sprouts, mung bean sprouts, alfalfa sprouts, they are also chock full of calcium. Now to the vitamin category. Of course, we know that all vitamins are essential. They're all interlocked. But the most important vitamin is, of course, the beta-carotene, the vitamin A. And, you know, it's for reproduction and for normal growth, and it aids in skin and complexion, teeth, mucous membranes, epithelial cells. Without it, we couldn't probably see. We'll have night blindness on top of astigmatism and nearsightedness and whatever. And vitamin A has another propensity, and that is to fight infection and resistance to disease and infection. And of course, the medical profession is even finding that out with all the cancer research with the beta-carotene and the big hoop to do about it now. It's like all of a sudden they discovered it when it was here from the beginning of time. Carrot juice makes 50-50 with apple juice. That's probably the greatest drink of all. But don't underestimate the power of the apricot in the summer season, nor the juice of cantaloupe made with the skin and all. Another great source of provitamin A, beta-carotene. B1 and B complexes, the thiamine, the riboflavin, the niacin, all these are absolutely essential, and you'll get them from alfalfa sprouts, and they all are intertwined. One vitamin doesn't do only one thing, and none of these juice combinations just reach one part of your body, like healing a stomach ulcer or getting rid of hemorrhoids or helping a lesion in the intestines or stimulating the heart valves or building new cells in the kidneys or the bladder or whatever. Everything is meant for every cell and every tissue and every organ and every gland. But the B complexes will aid in assimilation of starches and sugars. It stimulates your appetite and your energy. It aids digestion, and the greatest source of B complex lie in the leafy greens, including the sprouts, bean sprouts, mung bean sprouts, alfalfa sprouts. So many sprouts. Sprouts are essential. Eat them on your sandwiches. Have them for your fiber. They're marvelous. Wheatgrass has an awful lot of B complex to it, you see. Now, there's a lot of nuts and seeds that have, and grains that have B complex. Now, B12 is a very difficult commodity, cyanocobalamin. And what it does, it prevents nerve cell degeneration. And the people that are advocates of animal products being essential to the human, and that vegetarians lack B12, or if you will, cyanocobalamin, remember, we can get all the B12 we need it's such a minuscule amount anyway, by using dulse and nori and certain kinds of seaweed. But we also get B12 from wheatgrass and from barley green. So keep that in mind. You folks that are sold a bill of goods that you will become anemic, that you will not have a resistance force because you lack B12. So you can get them from these greens. Now, vitamin C, easy schmeezy, nothing to it. We can get all the vitamin C we want. And the vitamin C itself, ascorbic acid, is only 1/5 of the vitamin C family. The other 4/5 are the bioflavonoids, the vitamin P, double P, K, and K3. And they lie in the white pulpy matter of all citrus. We've all heard of vitamin E. That's one of the essentials. To me, it's our virility vitamin. And it's basically in vegetables and seeds and nuts. And the exact role has not yet been determined conclusively, of course, but we know that it's an antioxidant, and vitamin E allows fewer cells to be harmed when the blood vessels have been cut, mangled, or burned. So it's excellent for healing of any scar tissues. It's marvelous for healing of any wounds, and it lubricates the heart valve, and it keeps you from really being sterile. I think it's one of the essentials to keep your virility up. And it's in carrots, beets, and it's in celery, and all leafy greens, not just grains. In fact, basically, I get my vitamin E from the carrot juice that I drink on a daily basis. Now, a lot of people tell me that, oh, wow, Jay, protein. How can you be a vegetarian or a fruitarian or somebody that abstains from taking animal products and have the muscle tissue building proteins and all the amino acids? Well, remember, the most powerful creatures on this planet are vegetarians. And even in the human species, the most disease-free humans are the vegetarians or near vegetarians. Now, in the animal kingdom, you think of an elephant, you think of a racehorse, or the horse that pulls the plow, or you think of a bull that fights in the fighting ring, or you think of a steer that they're gonna butcher and cut his muscles into steaks for you. Where did they build those muscles from? Where did that protein come from? Well, basically, it came from grass and alfalfa and hay and things such as maize, which is a form of corn, and grains. You see, plant life contains protein. The only reason we edibly cannot consume enough is because cellular fiber is indigestible to the human species. It takes about a pound of carrots to make about an 8-ounce glass of juice. And you think of that, 1 pound of carrots getting you approximately 5 to 6 grams of protein. Now, not just protein, which are the building blocks of human tissue, but you think about the vitamin C in carrot. 1 pound of carrots gets you about 30 milligrams of vitamin C. Now, very few people realize that carrots have vitamin C. And there's niacin in it. Most of the B complexes are in it, including B12. Vitamin A, of course, the beta-carotene, which wards off and helps prevent cancer. Just 1 glass of it has about 20 to 25,000 international units of vitamin A. And the beautiful thing about vitamin A from vegetables, including the cruciferous foods, is that you cannot overdose on vitamin A from vegetation, which you can with fish oils or liver or animal product type of vitamin A. The drinks with carrot are plentiful. Carrot celery, carrot parsley, carrot spinach, carrot beet and cucumber for kidneys as a diuretic, carrot wheatgrass, which makes the wheatgrass much more palatable and easy on the liver and easy to handle, carrot juice for complexion, carrot juice for the hair, for the nails, carrot juice for the bone structure. Carrot is magnificent, and you can mix it with a plethora of foods.
This concludes Side 1. Please fast forward and turn this cassette over to hear side 2. This is Tips on Juicing with the Juiceman, Jay Kordich. This is side 2. Now here's Jay.
I want to get into beet juice because beet juice to me is one of the real flushers of the kidney and the bladder and the gallbladder included and emulsifying a lot of the bile and dispersing it. And it can build up red blood cells, and it stimulates the activity of the lymph nodes, and it has a cleansing property, and it has a lot of sulfur. It has a lot of vitamin A, B, and C again, and there's potassium in it, iron in it, and chlorine, another cleanser. And one of the best drinks is that beet and apple, which I call on the recipe sheet the liver mover. And I would say that's about a half of a beet with about 4 apples, which should make you just about a pint of apple beet juice. And it will emulsify and dissolve the pus and the fat and the cholesterol. It's a detoxifiant, one of the best you'll ever put into your body. Now, there is a drink that we use beet for as a diuretic, and the beet mixed with equal portions of cucumber, say 1/4 of a glass of beet juice, 1/4 of a glass of cucumber, and a half a glass of carrot, tipping it to the top. That would give you one of the best diuretics and cleansers of the kidney and the bladder and the whole urogenital canal. So beet has a tremendous purpose in the human body. Now I want to talk a little bit about cabbage. I've had a lot of personal experience with cabbage juice. I was at Stanford University working with Dr. Garnett Cheney. That's where he worked on the prisoners that had the stomach ulcers. And he gave every single prisoner 1 quart of freshly made cabbage juice per day. And he spaced it out. It was 4 8-ounce glasses dispersed throughout the day. That equaled 1 quart of cabbage juice. Out of the 65 ulcerated prisoners that we worked on, in 2 weeks, 63 of the 65 were totally cured on freshly made cabbage juice. Now, Dr. Paavo Airola, in his book called How to Get Well, when he gets to the degenerative disease of ulcers, he said that when you make cabbage juice, it must be drunk within 1 minute, or the medicinal therapeutical qualities are dissipated and gone. The vitamin U that Cheney isolated, in essence, is not actually a vitamin. It's actually an amino acid called acid glutamine that does the healing, and cabbage is inundated with it. Now, cabbage also has a lot of other properties. Again, the sulfur. Again, like any cruciferous food, it has a tremendous amount of beta-carotene, which they say will help curb cancer. And cabbage is easy to consume. Sometimes you get a bitter head that's a little bit on the hot side, and when I find that to be true, I always mix a little carrot with it and a little apple. But you shouldn't mind it straight. And if it's a sweet head of cabbage, it's easily handled. And again, I want you to think about it, especially with cabbage, where when you make the juice, you take that first mouthful and you swig it around a little bit. Chew your juice to stimulate the salivary glands. Celery juice, my favorite. Celery juice is what I drink a lot of every time I'm indulging in any physical activity, particularly racquetball. And when I'm jogging on the beach, when I'm doing a treadmill, I think it's indispensable for me. It's an excellent source of vitamin A, which we all know. It has B, C, and an excellent source of vitamin E for your heart and nerves. Now, celery and apple mixed together in the ratio of 1 rib or stalk, if you will, of celery mixed with 2 apples, normal-size apples, is the greatest drink for potassium and sodium balance, the harmony of that to keep you from having muscle cramping or fatiguing. And another thing it's very good for is people that are uptight, people that have trouble, people that can't sleep nights, people that have a lot of anxiety, stress, tension, either personal life related or job related, people that have insomnia, people that can't sleep nights, people that fall asleep early but wake up and can't fall back to sleep. One of the greatest sedatives, one of the greatest nerve drinks of all is apple celery. For people that are in heavily polluted area, when you're drinking that particular drink, it helps eliminate an excess amount of carbon dioxide from the system. My master, Dr. Walker, in his book, we talk about spinach juice. When you cook it, creating that oxalic acid inorganic compound of crystals that paralyzes digestive processes, yet raw spinach is the king of the greens, and it has a great propensity to stimulate the peristaltic wave and move the bowels in cases of constipation or congestion or retention of food matter. Carrot and spinach juice is one of the greatest drinks in the world to move the bowels. Now, parsley, to me, I said early on, is the third most nutritious food on the face of this earth. It too is a diuretic. It too is a cleanser of the kidneys and the bladder and the urethra. And one of the things about parsley, and it plays a great part in, is to reduce high blood pressure. And my favorite recipe with parsley is all it is a quarter of a glass of parsley with 3/4 of the glass filled to the brim of carrot juice. And that to me is one of the best drinks in the world. Now, I want to give a blanket resume on the leafy greens. That includes kale and endive and romaine lettuce and turnip greens and dandelion greens and mustard greens. All your greens lumped together, they are your lung cleansers. All life on this planet emanates from the green of the plant in the form of chlorophyll, and man cannot duplicate chlorophyll. It comes from solar energy, photosynthesis, the green of the plant, and the only viable, or in other words, usable part of that chlorophyll is the liquid green part that must be reduced out of that fibrous wall into a juice form. So that is a great cleanser and healer and an antiseptic of the human body. And it works on the adrenal glands, it cleans the lymph nodes out, but particularly the lungs. With any of the recipes that you encounter that need the leafy greens, always mix carrot with it. I very often add a little bit of celery, and if I get some of the bitterest greens, like escarole and endive, or turnip greens, which really, in a way, are abominable taste-wise, I add an apple to that drink to make it very, very palatable. I'd like to give you another drink now, too, and that is string bean juice. String beans and Brussels sprouts, which are the baby cabbages. This is one of the great recipes of all time. This particular drink is magnificent to restructure and reconstitute the cells of the pancreas, especially the island of Langerhans, which is the area where insulin is produced of the pancreas. So that drink, Dr. Walker taught me many, many years ago, that is the greatest drink in the world for a diabetic, and also the reverse for a hypoglycemic, string beans and Brussels sprouts. Now, that particular drink is not the most tasty of drinks, so I again doctor it up, and I mix a little carrot, add a little parsley, throw a little apple to it. All these drinks can be tempered taste-wise to be a little nicer and a little more palatable by adding some of these other ingredients. One of the most nourishing juices for the cells and the tissues of the nervous and muscular structures of the body is lettuce juice. Now, I'm not talking about head lettuce that's man-made, basically. I'm talking about the leaf lettuces, including romaine lettuce, Bibb lettuce, anything like red leaf lettuce, salad lettuce, any of the leafy green lettuces. These things are absolutely indispensable, and they have found that even heavy smokers that smoke 2 or 3 or 4 packs of cigarettes a day, they will have a 60% less chance of contracting lung tumors if they bring the chlorophyll of lettuce into their body. Now, lettuce will heal and purify the lungs. because of the life-giving chlorophyll that it has. And if you get some lettuce that is a very bitter substance, then you always again temper and mix it with carrot, with a little parsley, with a little celery, and throw that apple in. And lettuce is a cleanser. Lettuce is full of sulfur, and chlorine especially. The fruits I'm going to talk about now are, in actuality, the body cleansers and the energizers of the human body. Vegetables that we discussed before, they are the body builders. They will build the tissues, the glands, the cells, the organs. Fruits are the body cleansers. And I want to begin by talking about the number one fruit in the fruit category as far as nutritional content is concerned. Number one fruit, equal to the number one animal product, which is actually calf's liver, are cantaloupes. Cantaloupes are in the middle spectrum on the scale of 0 to 300. They rank equal to calf's liver. Cantaloupe is the number one fruit with beta-carotene to help you fight and reduce the risk of cancer. Cantaloupe has the number one amount of digestive enzymes, superseding even papayas and mangoes. And you know, when you eat the edible part of a cantaloupe, you only derive 5% or less of the food value. Did you know that the other 95% is in the skin and the peeling that we always discard? Well, it's very difficult to eat that skin, as it is with a watermelon. The watermelon rind we discard, throw it in the disposal or the trash can. We only eat the red of the watermelon. We even spit out the seeds. We don't chew the seeds. And the seeds are one of the finest foods in the world to make a watermelon seed tea by. Now, when we eat the edible part of a cantaloupe, excellent fiber, but it's only a small percentage of the food value. Now, when you have a juicer, you are now able to take the edible orange-looking part of the cantaloupe, along with the skin and all, and put it right through your machine. And when you do it with the skin, it enhances that cantaloupe flavor. Now, watermelon is the same. When you eat the edible part of the watermelon, it's a great diuretic to begin with. There are great mineral salts and tissue salts in the red edible part of a watermelon, but yet only 5% of the food value. The other 95% where all the trace minerals lie, especially zinc and potassium and cobalt, they lie right in the white rind. And the green shell, probably the number one source of chlorophyll, a tissue cleanser. The epithelial cells react and respond to it. A purifier of the body. One of the greatest coolants of all time. One of the greatest thirst quenchers of all time. Watermelon juice. And that does not mean you don't eat the watermelon. You need the fine mineral water and the mineral salts from eating the red part of the watermelon. But when you want 100% of it, do the watermelon with the skin and all. It's one of the greatest cleansers of the kidney and the bladder and the whole urogenital canal, especially the prostate, that you can ever imagine. So there are the melons, ranked number one in the fruit category, cantaloupe. Number two, honeydew melon, again with the skin. Number three, watermelon. Now below that come the other rankings, the papayas, the mangoes, and whatever. Melons alone, or leave them alone. Don't even mix the various melons together. Melons should be segregated from each other. They have different, each of them, digestive enzymes. So you don't want a clash of enzymes. Now, we, all of us, are very partial to apples. Apples have inside of their shiny skin some of the finest vitamins and minerals and proteins and fats and carbohydrates known in the fruit category. The vitamin A and the vitamin C aid in growth and help ward off colds. The sugar provides a great source of instant energy. Its acids stimulate saliva flow. That's why it's wise when you eat an apple and munch and crunch into it to chew it very readily. And it'll start the digestion properly to break the starches and sugars from the carbohydrates, you see. And apples, of course, you know, Adam and Eve, that's one of the original foods of life. See, and all these foods I've been discussing to you, these are God's foods. And in essence, they are cooked, but they're not cooked by man. They are cooked, aided and abetted by the sun. And they're full of energy. And they give you the life factor, you see. Now, apples are a tremendous drink. I gave you some recipes on the vegetable tape. Apple beets, your liver mover, to stimulate and emulsify the fat and the pus and the cholesterol and help regenerate and rejuvenate the liver. Apple celery, for those of you that have a lot of nerve problems, anxiety problems. Apple celery for people that have a lot of muscle cramping and fatigue easily. That'll help alleviate that because the sodium and the potassium combination. So you see, apples mix with all vegetables and or fruit. Now, I want to give you another excellent drink. Apple pear. And the reason for that one, that particular drink forms a malic acid that stimulates the bowels to move at a proper ratio and a proper level and a proper timing. The next group of fruits that I want to talk about are the berries. Berries are blood purifiers. All berries are blood purifiers. And when it comes to strawberries, strawberries have a very special commodity called ellagic acid that reduces the damaging effects of PAH, a carcinogen found in tobacco smoke. So even if you're not a smoker and just in an area, whether you have air conditioning or not, and are reduced to breathing the smoke that somebody else is smoking a cigarette from, it will emulsify, dissolve, purify, cleanse the lungs, especially the substance called PAH. And it'll rid good 70 to 80% of that. So it's indispensable. It's indispensable that you use strawberries. And strawberries also, because of this particular acid, are supposed to, and the investigation is still being conducted, and the research on it is supposed to dissolve certain types of tumors. There is another drink I want to stress, and this is a drink that was tested with a 12-year intensive research program at the University of Wisconsin in Madison, Wisconsin. That's cranberry juice. Cranberry juice is the one drink that will fight virus and any kind of a flu overnight. It'll knock any kind of virus out. Why? Cranberries have in it quininic acid, quinine, that the liver, recall what I said? All the nutrients must pass through the intestinal villi, through the portal vein into your liver to reach the bloodstream. And when that liver receives the quininic acid, the quinine, it converts it to hypuric acid, which becomes the greatest healer of all kidney infections to remove urea, uric acid, toxins and poisons. So it is the one drink that will purify any urogenital canal problem. Cranberry juice. I'd like to talk now about the citrus. Citrus is in a category by itself. On one of my sections in one of my earlier tapes, I talked about arthritis. And if you have it, you should abstain from all citrus with the exception of the grapefruit, because the grapefruit has that quinine as cranberries have. Now, one of the drinks I mentioned was to make the grapefruit and pineapple, to take the swelling and the pain out of the joint. Now, when you make grapefruit juice, or orange juice, or tangerine juice, all you have done in the past is cut an orange in half, or a grapefruit if you will, and used either a little manual squeezer or a reamer, or electrical reamer where you held a half an orange and squeezed it against a revolving reamer section. Now, when you do that, you get less than 1% of the food value. That is not orange juice. That is orange water. That is a sugar extracted and isolated and segregated from the rest of the food values. And when you drink it, according to Dr. Donsbach University, Dr. Donsbach reiterates, probably the number one cause of hypoglycemia, low blood sugar known to man, is the massive consumption of orange juice in this country. And when you're drinking that, it's just pure fruit sugar. When you want to do an orange, we have a unique way of doing it. And what you do with the orange and the grapefruit and the tangerine, you must peel. And the reason you peel, the orange skin has an oil that is indigestible to the human body. And the grapefruit skin has that same aromatic oil. They use that particular oil, it's an incendiary, to make munitions and fireworks and explosives by. So you have to either, with a little peeler, like a potato peeler or a grater, take the coloring of the orange or the coloring of the grapefruit off, but you retain all of the white. Now, I'm not so adept at that little potato peeler type of thing. I use a paring knife, and I peel just the coloring and I retain the white. Then you cut the citrus in its quarter sections, and you run them through our machine. Now, what comes out is something totally different than you can ever imagine. It doesn't look orangish and watery looking. It's very thick. It's very creamy, but it's fiberless. Now, you have cut into not just the interior membranes and sections, but you have cut into that white pulpy material and extracted the juices from those cells. And when you drink it, it's totally different. It's magnificent. It's almost like tasting a smoothie, something that's very creamy. And I want to say this, you have 100% of the food value. One of my chief fruit drinks is pineapple juice. But it isn't like in a can of Dole's or Libby's or Del Monte that has water added to it, and it's been on a shelf for months and years on end, and has been destroyed of enzymes, where they insist that every cannery take every fruit or vegetable that they can and run it through a cooker to kill the enzymes to give it shelf life. Pineapple juice that you make fresh is very tropical in taste. It's magnificent. It almost has a pineapple coconut taste to it. And it's full of food value, and you haven't altered it. But pineapples have this particular enzyme called bromelain that I mentioned early on, reduces the swelling and the pain of the joints when you have arthritis and tendonitis and bursitis. But that's not all. That particular enzyme called bromelain will help utilize, break down, and assimilate better than 10,000 times its weight in amino acids, so you end up not having proteinosis, which is the inability of the human body to use the coarse protein from animal products. That's not acceptable, basically, by the human body. And remember, when you're doing the pineapple, you use the skin and all. The only skins you remove, if you recall, are the orange, the grapefruit, the tangerine, but you can use the skin of a lemon and a lime. It has a different oil in it. Now I have one more recipe for you. This is the pièce de résistance. Lemon and my world-famous lemonade. Now, lemons are the richest food on this earth in bioflavonoids. That plays a great part in health and longevity. It builds up the capillary walls and blood vessels. And this drink is absolutely indispensable for your life process. Now, all you do is add a quarter of a lemon with the skin and all. Lemons and limes you can use the skin of. They have an oil that is splittable and digestible by the human body, so you use only 1/4 of a piece of lemon. The lemon skin, the white membrane, which has the bioflavonoids, and the meaty, juicy part. 1/4 of a lemon to about 4 apples. That makes the greatest lemonade in the world. Put the quarter of a lemon in your juicer, then cut your apples and quarter them, giving you 16 pieces of apple, and you will make better than 1 pint of lemonade. That will not have any sugar. That will not have any water. The liquid part will be the apple, and the sweetening agent will be the apple sugar or fructose, if you will. The greatest lemonade and one of the finest thirst quenchers and one of the finest diuretics known to man.
We hope this tape has been informative and educational. In addition to this audio tape, we offer the 6-cassette Juiceman audio tape series. Over 4 hours of personal instruction by Jay Kordich. To order or to receive information about our complete line of nutritional products and educational materials, call 1-800-800-8455 or write to The Juiceman, 655 South Orcas, Suite 220, Seattle, Washington, 98108. This has been a presentation of JM Marketing Incorporated. Copyright 1991. All rights reserved.